Now, the race to deliver the first vaccine to treat COVID-19 is underway. Moderna has submitted a request to the Food and Drug Administration for an emergency use authorization. And earlier this month, Pfizer also asked for a review of their vaccine. Silverani Padayachee, Senior Manager at the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, joins me now. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, how soon could South Africa approve a COVID vaccine? Are we talking days, weeks, or months?
Thank you for having me, and good day. Well, the South African Health Products Authority would be talking in months. And of course, it depends on the submission, whether we do get a submission for the vaccine or not.
Why would it take months when this is something that is so very urgent?
Well, it is understood in terms of urgency, but there are certain requirements in terms of establishing that the product we have received for assessment does meet the quality, safety, and efficacy requirements before being released to the public. And the exercise of doing the reviews are not a matter of days.
No, absolutely. We understand that South African authorities have to be satisfied. Does it not speed up the process a little if other countries with exemplary health records have already approved those vaccines?
Yes, of course. South African Health Products Regulatory Authority aligns with the US FDA, the European Medicines Agency, Japan, Health Canada, as well as the TGA. And we, even MHRA, which is the UK. So we are able to rely on the regulatory work done by them, and so hence we can reduce the timelines for review.
I see. And have there been, is there any way that South Africa can start the approval process? How does it all work?
So basically, an applicant would have to submit an application for registration of the vaccine, and we can then proceed from there onwards. At this moment in time, we have not yet received an application.
Is there any way you can be proactive and say, please, could you send in an application? We'd also like to access this.
Well, actually, the regulator awaits submission from the applicants. We can request for pre-submission meetings where we can engage with them in terms of how and when they should be submitting. Generally, we await submissions from the applicants. So when they're ready, we are ready to start.
I see. So you say the process might take months. So even if you received an application this month, it wouldn't be any time before probably February, March, April?
It depends on the nature of the application. So if it involves a pre-approval from a regulatory authority we align with, we may fully rely on the evaluations done based on what reports they have given us. So it could be 2 months and maybe even 3 months based on the information we receive. If it's a full application, it may even take longer without prior review from any reference regulatory authority.
Just explain what the approval process involves. I would imagine it's not about going to the lab and checking that the tech and the technology is correct. So how does it actually work?
So it involves the submission of a dossier which will contain information relating to the quality, that is the manufacturing process, the safety, which is the clinical trials information, and efficacy, so further studies relating to efficacy. And these are then reviewed. The review process is quite intense. We have parallel reviewers, so basically 2 people reviewing the same dossier. And then a process of peer review, following which we may have questions to the applicant to respond to. If those are all addressed, the process can then proceed towards registration, so issuing of a registration certificate. Over and above that, vaccines that are brought into the country has to go through a process of lot release. So vaccines that do come in has to be verified that they are in fact the ones that we have approved. And we also look at things like the cold chain that has been maintained during transportation.
And that's particularly true, that cold chain for one of the vaccines that has been developed has to be stored under extremely cold conditions. Is that a sort of situation where you might go, this is just not going to work in South Africa? Do we have the capacity to set up such an extreme cold chain, should it be required?
Yes, the temperature conditions does flag an alert. The decision, however, lies with the National Department of Health, who deals with the distribution and the supply chain for the vaccine. So the decision finally lies with the National Department of Health.
All right, so you at the Health Products Regulatory Authority, you would respond to an application for approval, and then after that it would be the Department of Health to decide if it's feasible or not. Once approval has been granted by SAHPRA, are we talking a matter of days or weeks before the vaccinations would actually be available to be given to members of the public?
So once we issue the registration certificate, it's then up to the applicant to make sure that they have the vaccine available. So the speed at which it arrives to South Africa is basically the applicant's responsibility. So once you have the registration certificate, you are able to import.
All right, and you can confirm that there haven't been any applications as yet to SAHPRA for any COVID vaccines in South Africa to be approved?
Not as yet, and we do anticipate something as early as next week.
Okay, thank you so much for explaining the process to us. That's Silverani Padayachee, Senior Manager at the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, explaining it will take a few months to approve any application for COVID vaccines in South Africa, and they are expecting some applications as early as next week.